Hi, and welcome to Turra Company, the mother-daughter podcast about everything. Our mission is to make herstory, aka history, not by going viral, but by doing something that has never been done before in our family. Whether we have 2 listeners or 2 million listeners, we are bringing you our very best, and hopefully we are learning and growing together in the process. Now let's enter into the Turra Company experience and create herstory, aka history, together. Welcome to Turra Company worldwide.
You said
all over the world. Because we are, I keep telling you.
Absolutely, we are.
Totally, absolutely.
People are listening to us all over the world. Okay, so let's see. Let me see, do I got any updates for y'all? So let me just tell y'all this thing that I was a little bit embarrassed about. Let me tell you, that happened. It's related to the podcast.
Okay. I think I know what you're about to talk about.
All this time, I have been promoting the podcast saying, hey, listen to us go check us out on YouTube. Check us out on this. Check us out on that. In the show notes every week, I say in the show notes, go and listen on all major podcast platforms and leave us a review. I say it in the thing. Why was I never checking the reviews?
Now, did you only check on Apple Music? Like, do we get reviews on Spotify?
They're everywhere.
Too?
Yes. I didn't even check Spotify because it would have blew my mind, because I already was like, when I seen them Apple Podcast reviews, it was like, I have arrived, okay? And I'm going to tell you why I feel like I had arrived. Because those were people we didn't know. Like, those people didn't know Ariel, Chelsi, and Turra.
They didn't know any of us.
That was organic.
Oh my God. Reviews.
And so now we are a 5-star rated podcast.
Oh, yay, go us. Okay.
But listen, growth is growth. So I'm not going to say that we're 5 stars out of 5 reviews, because that's what we are. But guess what? I'll take that. I will take that.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Oh my God.
That's all the motivation you need.
And if you didn't see the reviews, go on our Apple, because I only posted the ones from Apple Podcasts. Chelsi had a point, because all of our platforms.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure we would get. I think you can get some on Spotify too.
Yeah,
you can.
I just haven't looked. And let me tell you why I was even on there. Let me tell you why I was even on there. The reason that I was even on there is because I've been on Twitter a lot lately, on like looking at it. And so there's this podcast Twitter that I follow, and they're always like, post your podcast. So I just went on Apple to get our link for the podcast. And then I was like, wait a minute. I was seeing these words like I love, love, love. I was like, whoa, somebody love 3 loves? Somebody 3 loves?
They mean it.
Oh my God. So anyway, I'm going to get off of that. But thank you to people who review our podcast. That stuff, what you don't know about it is that stuff helps us to grow and be seen and blow up. So if you haven't left us a review and you feel inclined, do it. Apple Podcast, Spotify, anyone. You know, because it's so funny. People walk up to me all the time. People walk up to me all the time and tell me how great the podcast is. What are you looking at me like that? I'm not saying like strangers.
Okay, because that's how you kind of making it sound.
Yeah.
Because for me and
I'm
Ariel,
saying people I know.
well, because this is. Let me tell you why me and Ariel was looking at you like that. Because you don't leave the house like that. So I'm like, who is just walking up on you?
Did you just put me on blast?
Yes. You leave the house to go grocery shopping, or you go to grandma's house. So I'm just kind of curious.
But I'm saying people that I know. People that I know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
People that I know who I talk to.
Yeah.
They say to me.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Thank you. Don't just say they be walking up on you, because they're not walking up on you.
Why can't I just say how I want to say?
Absolutely. Live your life.
Are y'all trying to change me?
No.
Yes, 100%.
She is, not me. I don't change people.
Okay. So if you haven't just buzzed in on that. That's what our show is about today. It's about change.
That's what I was trying to do. That was the point.
yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, that was the point.
Okay.
And Chelsi totally missed it.
100%
It flew
missed.
right over her head. So let's get started. Change. This show is about change. So the way that we want to tackle it, I've been stuttering lately. I got to get myself together. The way that we want to tackle the change is we want to know, are you, I got my radio voice on. That's what it is. You know what? Lately, I haven't been talking to you guys in my radio voice. Lately, I've been like talking to y'all in my regular street voice. Like, yeah, because we're going to do this. But didn't you just notice? I'm about to talk in my radio voice. So what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to talk about change. Can people change? Do you want to change? If you could change anything, what would it be? Let's get started. Why are y'all laughing?
You're so crazy.
I was like, let's get started. Because this going to be, this going to be a good show. Anytime you're talking about change, who out there doesn't need to change at least one thing?
That's true.
And we're not talking, my man, I just came from work and we had a little meeting today. And my manager says this really good quote that we kind of like make a joke out of around work. And when we are talking about implementing changes at work, she always says, I don't need you to do a 180. I'm not asking for a 180 overnight. I'm just asking every day, come into work and make a 10% shift.
Yeah, she's lowballing it.
Oh, okay.
I don't
That's
think
10%.
so. That's
Because that is realistic and you can do it gradually.
Oh.
If you come in every day and do a 10% shift, that means I'm going to be even better than the 10% that I gave yesterday.
Oh, okay.
yeah, that makes sense. The 10% makes sense to me.
So we go in and we do 10% shifts. Not full 180s.
Yeah, see, I'm such an overachiever. I would be the 180 every day.
I feel like that's, for me,
Then
that's
you're
how I
doing
get burned out.
360s and we right back
You
to where we
can.
started.
For me, that burns me out. If I'd make too many big changes all at once, I
I burn out a lot. I burn out all the time. It happens all the time. But that's how my brain works. And that's it. So anyway, let's talk about change. So what, if anything, about yourself do you want to change? Do you think needs it? Because you know what? I was thinking about this when I was crafting the show. And I was like, there's some things I want to change just because I want to. And then there's some things I need to change because I need to. Right? Would you say you had some
That makes
things like
sense.
that? So I was trying to think before the show, what do I need to change? And the girls were like, well, what is it? I was like, no, I'm not going to tell you until we get on the mic. So what do I want to change?
Do you want to change, Mom?
I think I want to change. Yeah, I don't know. You know why? Because, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to say that. Because I feel like I'm tweaking all the time.
But what are you tweaking?
So I don't know if people have noticed by now. I mean, I think we're like 50 something. I know we are. We 55, 6 something. We something episodes in. And if you don't know by now, I have a strong personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that,
Oh my God, really? That's kind of crazy. I haven't really noticed that at all.
but with that strong personality, not everybody can take the strong. Like, not everybody can take the strong. There are so many people that try to beat the strength out of me. Like, and I'm not saying physically, but I'm saying they meet me and they say, oh, who does she think she is? I think we've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that people around me would probably say that I need to change is how I present myself.
Like me with the whole, it's so easy to just not say things.
Right. You and see you, because we have different personalities,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because your person, and it's weird because you have it too now that you took your test, and we'll talk about that on another episode. That harmony lets you get along with people. and then if you take the test, we're going to all take the test. Chelsi got to take it for free. I got to take it for free. So Ariel's going to have to pay for it. So that's going to be on another episode. We're going to do this thing called Strength Finders. Oh my God. It is it's a great test, but that's not what today's show is about. Today's show is about change. So if I wanted to change anything about me, it would be how I come across to people. Does that make sense?
That does.
But I like how I come across to people. I like how I come across. So it's going to be hard for me to change. Like, I feel like other people want me to change, but I don't necessarily want to change that.
I mean that makes sense. I understand where that comes from.
Because it's my personality.
Right.
And that leads me to, can you change? Can you change other people? And are there differences in change is to behavior or core things? And I'm going to give you an example. If I was a liar, I mean a stone cold, not just
pathological.
Yeah, like, is the sky blue? No, it's green. You know, one of those type of things. I went to the moon yesterday. You know them people you just run into sometimes where they can't tell the truth if you pay them? Mm-hmm. Do you think those type of people can change?
No, because that's probably like their defense mechanism. That's how they feel safe.
And I think when we're talking about situations like that, it's one of those things where depending on how long you've been doing it, it's just burned into that person's just personality and memory that.
But isn't that a core? I think so. I think lying is a core.
Yeah. Like a core value or like a core. What do you mean by core?
A core behavior.
Okay.
Like there's certain things that I feel like are core behaviors, like how I come across. Like there is a part of me that probably will never stop telling people what's on my mind. Because that's what I do. Mm. That's the core of me. Now, how I tell you can vary, but I don't think that I'm ever going to change it. Because for me, it works for me. How about that? Mm-hmm. It works for me. And yes, let me tell you, when I say it works for me, don't get it twisted, because I do offend people sometimes. I offend people a lot of times. I don't even know why I said sometimes. I offend people, but that's the onus of offense is not on me. Because if you bring me a problem and I give you my unaltered opinion, you just offended yourself. Because why'd you bring it to me?
Well, here's the thing about that. I think you're right in those cases, but another thing that I think that sometimes people need to understand or people need to think about is intention versus impact. And by that, I mean, you may you may have good intentions, or you may be coming from like a good place, but sometimes things get misconstrued, and the impact that whatever action has is greater than the intention. Now, when I say that, I understand that, like, you know, you can't control how other people handle things. You can't control, how people react. But also at the same time, if you go into it if you come into it and say, hey, you bring something to somebody in a way that offends them, and they tell you that they're offended, how you handle that can also determine how that person moves with you for future.
And that's the ticket. So let me just tell you how things usually go. Like you just talked about intent. Say it again.
Intent versus impact.
Okay. Intent versus impact. So you said that, and as soon as you said intent, there is no thought about it. Mm-hmm. When I say it, I'm saying it. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Mm-hmm. So when I'm talking to you or Chelsi or anybody, if you say something to me, it's just something that's in my brain that I'll be like, what?
I find that interesting, because I'm wondering because I am the kind of person where I take impact very seriously because I understand that if something lands wrong or if something like doesn't, if somebody gets offended, they're not going to receive it. So I always want to, my intention is always to communicate something in a way that that the impact is positive.
Yeah, I never learned that. I think I never learned it. I only learned.
Where did I learn it from then? I wonder.
I don't know.
Ariel, a lot of things that you learned, you did not learn from mom or dad. So I don't even know why you question that like that.
Well, maybe you saw me. So this happens too. So maybe you saw me reckless and then you were like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Maybe.
So you might have learned it from me unintentionally. Because that's a thing, right? So you probably saw me always just firing off. Boom, 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 rapid fire. Because I'm telling you, I'm trying to think in my life, was there ever a time where somebody told me something and I just sat back? It happens sometimes, but most times, if you tell me something crazy, I'm going to be like, what? What do you mean? And then I'm going to say something. And it's weird. Like I always tell people, if you don't want to hear the truth, then don't tell me. Because I'm going to tell you my truth. And that's the thing. You got to know it's my truth. It's my truth as I understand it. But it's usually the truth. I'm just, but think about it. I'm your mom. When you think back and when I have told you things, 9 times out of 10, what are they?
They're usually correct.
And you don't want to take it at the time because
I don't want it to be correct.
That's a fair statement. That's a fair statement. I think for me, I think that you're probably right. That probably the learning the opposite is how I learned that. Because one of the things that I do is, as I guess people have said about me before, is that I get offended when people try to give me criticism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't saying it like, yeah, like that. I was just agreeing with it. Go ahead.
Just disrespectful.
So disrespectful. So disrespectful.
So rude. But I personally get offended. And one of the things that I want to change, to bring us back onto the topic, is I want to be better about receiving criticism. But I do think it's I do have to remind myself that there probably aren't as many people in the world, or at least I haven't come in contact with a lot of different people who use their words carefully. And one of the things that, like, I'm sure people who listen to this podcast know, because I'm the wordsmith, is I'm very particular about my words. I'm very particular, and I want to make sure that I'm using the right words to communicate exactly what I want to say.
And I'm just reckless. Chelsi, what are you? What do you think? Do you think you use your words right? Sometimes, because you can be a combination. You could be rapid fire. Because sometimes you rapid fire on Ariel.
Yeah.
And with you, this is my opinion of you.
Yeah.
I think you can be rapid fire or you're going to be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Most of the time, it's either I'm going to go 0 to 100 and just go.
Yeah.
Or you're at 0.
Or I'm at 0 and I'm going to stay at 0.
Yeah. And you're just going to listen and you're not going to weigh in. You're just going to nod your head and say, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. And so I get that, but I don't do that. You must get that from your dad. So, okay, let's talk about it. That you just mentioned a change. So you want to change how...
I want to change how I receive criticism. I want to be better about accepting criticism. And it's, when I tell you, it has been so hard, mostly because my knee-jerk instinct reaction is to go on the defensive. And I think that's the case with a lot of people. I don't think we as people are taught really how to accept criticism in a way that doesn't feel like it's a personal attack.
And I'm going to give you a tip, though. This is the thing. The more you grow and know who you are, that's when you'll be less offended. Because if you pay attention to me, people try to tell me who I am all the time. I'll be like, that ain't it. Because I know who I am. So I sit and study myself, right? So, because you're going to meet people on the road of life that are going to be like, oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. And they're going to be so wrong. And you're going to be like, we can hear that. Did you think your mic was silent? We can hear you
I was
yawning.
trying to hold that in. I'm sorry.
Okay, but we can hear you.
I'm sorry.
So I don't even remember where I was. But so the more you study yourself, the more that you know who Ariel is and stand in who Ariel is, when people say something about you, you won't be as offended. Now, it still might sting for the people who are close to you because you're like, dang, I hold them in high esteem. Why did they just say that? But you also have to learn how to center your brain and say, and this is what I have done over the years, center your brain and say, okay, why did I get offended by that statement? Was it true? And then you just got to talk yourself through it. Instead of just being offended, crying, being offended, being mad, being offended, you need to come out of it and say, why did that affect me so? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Most people who get offended, and this show isn't about offended, but this is Ariel's thing that she wants to change. Most people who get offended, it's because they don't know who they are. And so when somebody speaks this thing over them or to them, they get offended because they were trying to present themselves as one way, but it came back as another way. So imagine this. Imagine you were the great pretender, because there are a lot of great pretenders out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who show up every day and they want to be nice. I want to present myself as nice every day. I want to present myself as this. I want to present myself as that. But then you might run into the person that sees through all of that and see some other stuff. It's not saying that you're not nice. It's not saying that you're not presenting yourself as a good person. But you can meet somebody that can say, you know, you nice, but you got a little manipulation going.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that manipulation, me saying that you nice, but you got manipulation, that's going to throw you off your square because you were trying to present yourself to me as nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I picked up something else. Now, what you have to do as the receiver of that information is say, where did they get that from? Mm-hmm. Have I been showing up manipulative? Have I been showing up? You know, where did that come from? And sometimes it could be the person has no clue. They don't know you, bump them.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes somebody can see and you'll be like, you know what? I do show up a little. I do have a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that everybody gives you that offends you is not necessarily bad. It's something to put in your tank and make you grow. Chelsi, what would you want to change?
And you know what? While you were talking, I'm going to be so honest, I wasn't even listening. I was in my head thinking, I don't really think there's anything I need to change. I was like, I don't think.
You do. Think about it a little harder.
That's you looking from the outside in, yeah. But me, I don't.
Chelsea,
there
are so many things that you can change.
I can think of a couple of things.
Think
and we're just not going to out you.
I think I'm pretty solid.
I am. I think it's not that I think that necessarily you need to change, but I think it's something that you could be a little bit more aware of. Is I think that going back to Mom's whole, I want to, you know, how we present ourselves a lot of times. One of the main things that Chelsi does is she'll walk around and she'll have just a neutral, just angry looking face. And I'm not saying that she needs to change. I'm not saying she needs to change her face or that she needs to like adjust how she does in the interim. But a lot of times I don't feel like you're 100% honest about your feelings
and your mood. It just happened 2 weeks ago.
What are you talking about?
It just happened 2 weeks ago where you came downstairs and I felt like you was in the biggest funk.
And I wasn't. When you think I'm in a mood and you tell me that you think I'm in a mood, that puts me in the mood.
Chelsea,
Mom.
You was so off. Because this is the thing about you. See how you are? You laughing, you giggly. That's not how you always come through.
Right.
And so this is what Ariel is talking about. Instead of you saying, you know what, I am feeling a little off today, you'll be like, it's not. I don't even know what you're talking about. And you'll act like we made it up. And you get it from your daddy.
I do.
You get it from your daddy because he does the same thing.
Gaslight, girl boss, gatekeep.
Your daddy does the same. Oh, poor daddy. We just get him so bad in here.
But yeah, but I say and the reason I say that I don't think that sometimes you're 100% honest about your feelings is just a couple days ago or not too long ago, I was trying to talk to you about something and you just told me that, hey, I just got off of work. I'm tired, blah, blah, blah.
It literally happened
yesterday.
Okay, well, by the time
But
it's here.
my point is you instead of just being like, yeah, sure, whatever, and pretending to listen to me and not listen to me, you were completely transparent with your feelings, and I was receptive of that. Like, okay, cool. If that's the case,
Kind of took you a minute to walk away a little bit.
It
But
did.
Yeah,
It
but
did
it's okay.
because it's my job as your older sister to get in your face and kind of get on your nerves just a little bit.
Absolutely.
Just a little.
But you do got some stuff. I need you to think about that because you do got some stuff that you need to change. That's just one of the things. I say that about you all the time because I said that about you when I used to pick you up from school. Because some days you would get in the car and you would be like, oh, hey, Mom, and telling me about 5,000 people that I never even met. And then some days you'd get in the car and it would be total silence. And you still do it to this day. You will get in a funk. But instead, and somebody will be like, what's wrong with you? And instead of you saying it, because you can see it.
But and I think I've said this before, because sometimes it's nothing. Like,
you're just in a funk
I'm
just for no
in
good
a
reason.
funk. Something just snaps
But why
in
don't
my
you
brain.
just acknowledge the funk?
Yeah,
That's what
fine.
we're saying. I don't think we're asking you at that moment to say what the funk is. We are just
I'll
saying.
tell you what the funk it is.
But even if it's nothing, or you just woke up
Right,
like, I don't know why,
right.
that's fine.
Sometimes I'm like that, and if somebody say something to me, I'll be like, you know what? I think I woke up on the wrong side of the floor this morning because
Wrong side
I'm
of the
not
floor.
feeling it. But you'll be like, ain't nothing wrong with me. Why you keep asking me that?
But yeah, it's fine to be in a funk for no good reason. Like, it happens. It's not that big of a deal.
The time. But you need, I can't believe you cannot come up. And you've been knowing about this show for like a week and a half. I can't believe you don't have anything. It was hard for me too, because I think I'm perfect in all ways. But
Oh, me, the self-critical one, came up with something so easy.
right, you did?
I did.
Yeah. And like I said, I do, but I don't think it can change. Like, so that's another thing. What do you do? What do you do when the thing that you want to change is a core thing?
Here's the thing.
Just accept it.
Well,
I guess so. And just know that I'm not going to have a lot of people around me. You got to have some toughy toughs around me.
I have a little bit of feedback.
Okay. Uh-oh.
It's good feedback. I promise you. It's
Coming
good.
she coming with the fire
I
today.
know, right? I coming with the nuggets. Anyways,
What you got?
I don't think that your core values can change, but I do
Yeah.
think the way that you handle them and the way that you communicate them can be changed. And the reason why I say that is because, Mom, you're actually a very good example of that. Because even though you say, like, you know,
I come off
you come off
aggressive.
and abrasive.
Yeah.
The last like few times I've had an issue or I've brought an issue to you, you've been pretty accepting
Yeah.
of that feedback.
Yeah.
Which not a lot of people can say,
Yeah.
especially if like you're not. And I think that also has to do with the fact that it's coming from me, your daughter, who you love, and not like some random person off the street.
And sometimes you'll say, so this is how I take it. Sometimes you'll start down the road and I'll be like, okay, I can see that. But then sometimes you curve and I don't see it. But as a mother, I try to empathize with it. Am I using the right word?
Yeah.
I try, but you know, my empathy is off. I don't have it.
Which is why whenever you say that doesn't make sense to me.
But I try to. That's why I'm trying to tap more into my empathy. And so sometimes you'll say stuff like giving me criticism or feedback, whatever you want to call it. And like one part of it I'll take and be like, yeah, I can see that. But then the second part I take and I'll be like, where'd she get that from? But because you said it, it's how you feel. I have to acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the empathy comes in. I want to acknowledge, even though I don't see it, even though I don't agree with it, I still want to acknowledge that that's a thing that's coming from you. And that's why sometimes I'll say, hey, I'll let you get it all out. And I'll say, this part I can help you with. And sometimes I even say, this part, I'm sorry, I can't do nothing about it.
Yeah, and that's fine.
But when you have said it to me, and sometimes I have delayed reaction. When you say it to me, then I'm like, oh, this is what Ariel was talking about. Like sometimes, like 5 days later, something will happen and it'll click in my mind and I'll be like, oh, this is what Ariel was talking about. Maybe I do that. You know what I mean? So sometimes at the moment, I don't see it when you bring it to me. But think about this. I don't get offended.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I don't get offended, it allows me to work through it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a lesson for you.
Yeah.
That if you don't get offended when somebody brings something to you and you let them say it, even though you might not agree, if you let them say it, just marinate on it. And the parts that you can take from it, take it. And the parts that you can't, just leave it. But eventually it'll come through. Wouldn't you agree, Chelsea?
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. But Chelsi doesn't have any changes.
No.
Girl, you guys.
You are the most stubborn person.
She got
I
the
know.
most changes in the whole house.
I don't know about the most.
No, she does. I'm about to bring up another one.
Okay.
See, this is what happens when you don't bring up your own changes. Because see how me and Ariel brought up our changes? Ain't nobody had to give
You
us
didn't
none.
bring up a change. You didn't.
I
You
literally
didn't.
said
You
that
didn't.
the change that I want to do is my abrasiveness and how I come across to people.
Yeah, at first she said she couldn't think of anything. And then she
Yeah,
changed it.
I was
Whatever.
playing.
That was during the part where you admitted that you weren't listening.
Right.
No, that was after.
Okay, well, listen back to the tape. Listen back to the recording. There's no tape. Listen back to the recording because I literally said sometimes I come across, I don't even want to call it abrasive or aggressive. Sometimes I come across as just in your face. Remember? You don't remember this?
Yeah.
We had this whole conversation.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want to pull back, but I can't. It's hard. And so when I meet new people who don't know that about me, it can come off as like, ooh.
Okay, I got one.
What you got?
I want to change, like, my motivation levels. You know? Like, sometimes I get, like, it's just the
Your
inconsistency.
depression?
That's for a paid professional.
You want to change your depression?
My depression levels just...
Because sometimes,
Your
Chelsi, I'm not
serotonin
going
or
to
lack
out
thereof.
you. I'm not going to out you as to how your depression shows up. But you've even
undiagnosed, by the way, for the
admitted
listeners.
it. But you've even admitted it. Like there's times when your room has been like somebody dumped it upside down, and then you'll just one day wake up and then it'll be like somebody came in there and cleaned it. Yeah. And a lot of times you'll say that's because of my depression.
Yeah.
Because you just don't want it.
This is undiagnosed people.
Because you just don't want to do it.
Just getting moods. I got a lot going on in my life, and the thought of cleaning up my room is just sometimes not on the... I got bigger fish to fry.
But now you don't have to clean it. Now you just need to organize it, right?
Yeah.
And so has that helped your depression now?
Yeah.
And we saying depression, let me say this, because we don't want to take away from anybody who really suffers from clinical depression. And I do believe that depression can be on many levels. I believe that the everyday Joe can be depressed. Everybody has ups and downs and just days where you wake up and you're like, today ain't the day. And maybe that's the days when you wake up and today ain't the day. That's your depression kicking in. Maybe. Yeah. So anyway, that's the change. So you want to change your motivation level. Go into that a little bit. What do you mean?
And I mean, it kind of sometimes happens with work too. Like, I wish I could kind of change how I deal with tasks. Because sometimes if I have too many on my plate, then that overwhelms me to the point where I won't do them.
You'll shut down.
I'll shut down and I'm like, it'll get done when it gets... Kind of like where like I kind of force myself to become one of those people who works well under pressure, and really I don't work well under pressure because I'm forcing myself to do it.
So let me give you some tips on that. Today is just tips day for me to give you tips. One of the things that you need to do is because what you're talking about is not only task oriented, but it's time management oriented, right?
Yes.
And so what has to happen, because this used to happen to me when I first came into the work world, is I didn't have a concept of how long everything took, right?
Yeah.
And so when you feel that overwhelmed feeling, what you should do is lighten your load. So there's probably something on that list that'll take 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And hit that. And what that'll do is that'll give you a win, because that'll make you feel like, oh, I finished that.
Yeah.
Because if you take the big thing, even though you know it's going to take the longer time, if you take that and don't complete it, and then you haven't completed the other things, now you feel like, oh my God.
Right.
But if you take one small thing, finish that, then go to a medium thing, finish that, then, work your way up to the big thing.
Yeah.
Then that will take the stress out.
Yeah.
And even if you don't finish that big thing, okay, tomorrow when I come in, I'm going to hit that, because now it's half of whatever it was.
Right.
And then you go right back to that, hit the small thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm a taskmaster. I am. I'm really good at tasks. Like, I write stuff down. I'm really good at that. Like, really good. So anyway, that's our show on change. We probably are going to do a part 2, and I'm going to tell you why. Because change has so much to do with many different intervals of you. So it's behavior. Can I change my behavior? Absolutely. My core things. Can I change my core things? Not so much.
It's like moving a cruise ship.
It is. But the core, think about it. The core is who you are. That's what makes you wake up and do the things you do, how you do them. So you may not even need to change them. Maybe you need to change your circle.
Or even how you approach your core.
Yeah, how you approach your core or your circle. Because maybe you have a circle that is not the support system that you need for the core that you have, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you an example, and then I'm going to let our listeners go. When I think about Neil and I, we are 2 different ends of the spectrum, right? Right? I'm like super aggressive. I'm a taskmaster, right? That's how I can tell Chelsi how to do them tasks. I'm a taskmaster. But then Neil is like, go with the flow, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. And it works for us. It really, really works for us. So when people see us, it's interesting, the dynamic that we have, and we've had it forever. People see us sometimes, and they try to change our dynamic. Why would you try to change somebody's dynamic that obviously works for them? Nobody's getting hurt. It works for us. Like, Neil has no problem. I just was telling somebody this. Neil has no problem with me taking care of everything. Now, sometimes that burns me out. Don't get me wrong, because sometimes I'd be like, Lord Jesus, I just wish he would take over. But then I say that, like, it's like when I say, I want you guys to start doing more stuff in the podcast. And if you did, I probably would be like, no.
Yeah, that's exactly what did happen and what would happen.
Right. So I say all of that to say, just because you think somebody might need to change how they are, like how we just gave each other feedback on what we think needs to be changed. Like, we only gave Chelsi her change because she felt like she didn't have none. Crazy. So anyway, sometimes you got to watch who's feeding into you. You got to watch your circle, because sometimes you can be in that circle. Have you ever had a group of friends where you feel like an alien? Like, you just didn't fit. You were with them, but you didn't fit.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that? And so when you're in those situations, it kind of makes you want to start changing yourself, right? And so you'll start changing to fit in. But no, don't change to fit in. No, because that's you. That's who you are, and you're going to be miserable. So don't change. Because you can't. Yeah, we got to do a part 2. It's not going to necessarily be a series or right after this, but because I want to hit this, we may have to do a series, because I want to hit it from behavioral stance. I want to hit it from core stance. And I kind of want to break it down, because you know what? We taking it lightly, but there might be people out there who really struggle with change.
That's fair. I'm sure there are a lot of people like that.
Yeah, and they might just need that little oomph. Because I feel like this. We're not doctors. We're not paid professionals like Ariel always says. But we're just regular people, right? And when you sometimes... So we sit here on the mic and we talk to people and we think, everybody knows this. This is simple stuff. but not everybody hears this stuff. So we just hit change on a very simplistic level, but I'm going to come up with a series on change so we can kick it up a notch and kind of delve into it a little bit deeper. And now you know what we want to change. And we'll give updates on how we going with the change as shows go on. But we're going to go deeper into this because I think we need to hit it a little bit harder just to help people who might have things that they want to change and just don't know how to get that change going. And guess what? Hit us up on our social media. If you have a question, if you have something that you want to change and you're not quite sure how to change it, I'm not saying that I'm the expert. I'm not saying we're going to know what to do. But we can figure it out together. Sometimes two brains is better than one, I think. So, all right. Well, that was our show for today, our show on change. We appreciate you listening. And, of course, we're never going to not say it. We want you to hit us up on all our social medias. We want you to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the major podcast platforms that you listen to. Let us know that you enjoy the show. Let Apple Podcasts know that you enjoy the show. YouTube.
Or Spotify. I feel like Spotify gets a bad rap.
Yeah, you know why? Because of that Mr. Rogan thing.
I'm not saying that. I was saying that people don't. I mean,
A lot of people don't use it because you have to pay for it.
That's what.
Well, it's not only that though, because fun fact, when we first started this podcast a year ago, a little bit over a year ago now, our most of the listeners were coming through Spotify. But literally not long after that thing happened, I'm not going to say their name because listen, I only got $2 and I don't want nobody trying to take my $2, but people know. And so once that thing popped off, people were taking a stand and they were like, okay, I'm not listening to that. I'm going to listen to this. And so when that happened, everything flipped and a lot of people went to Apple Podcasts.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if it's leveling out now. I still see Apple as the first. When I look at our stats, I still see Apple Podcasts as our first. But listen, whatever you choose to listen to it on, give us a review. We are on iHeartRadio. We're on everything. We're on everything. So go Amazon. We're everywhere. Anyway, that's our show for today. We thank you for listening. We will see you on the next episode.
Adios. Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We look forward to you joining us on the next episode. Until then, be inspired and enlightened.